Hey everyone. So in this video, I'm going to go over the PowerPoint in the lesson for the writing process, revising, editing, and proofreading. So you took a look at that PowerPoint. The title of it was Revising and Editing, Know the Difference. Because not a lot of people realize there is a difference, but there is. So when we go through these slides, one of the first things that it tells us is that when revising and editing, you need to go global to local. What does that mean? Well, global is big, local is small, right? So that's the take you want with revising and editing. You want to think bigger first and then work down to smaller issues. If you look at slide 3, it actually tells us that there are 4 levels to revision. So the revision process consists of 4 different steps. So we have level 1, which is global revision, level 2, which is substantive editing, level 3 is copy editing, and level 4 is proofreading. All right, so we're going to go through each of these levels and talk about each one a little bit and why we do things in this order. So our first level, level 1, is global revision. And you'll notice on that slide, slide 4, it lists topic, angle, purpose, readers, context. That sounds familiar. That's the rhetorical situation, right? So the first step in the revision process is to address the rhetorical situation and any issues, any problems that might exist for any one of those elements of the rhetorical situation. Maybe your topic is too broad and it's not focused enough. Maybe you don't have a good enough angle and the draft is coming off a little boring or just not fresh enough, not unique enough. Maybe your purpose is missing. Maybe the draft, when we read it, it's hard to tell what you were hoping to accomplish. Maybe you didn't take your readers into account. Maybe the context, especially like your voice and tone, maybe something's off about that. But that's the first place you want to start with revision. Especially if you've gotten any feedback on a draft that would indicate a problem with one of those elements. But that's why it's always important to consider the rhetorical situation before you start writing and as you're drafting. Because if you take care of those elements from the beginning, then this first level of revision can probably be skipped, right? You can just move on to level 2. If you did not take the rhetorical situation into account in the beginning and as you were drafting, then you're likely going to end up with a lot of work in your revision process. Because if you think about it, everything that you've written in the draft, who knows if it's even going to stay in the draft once you figure out all of these elements of the rhetorical situation. If your topic wasn't focused enough, gosh, I would imagine huge chunks of your essay aren't even going to be usable anymore. If you haven't made it interesting enough or unique enough, you're going to have to do a lot of work to put your own flavor on whatever topic you're writing about. Same thing with your purpose. If your purpose is not clear, you're going to have a lot of work to do, not just in the introduction, but throughout the essay as well. So taking care of the rhetorical situation from the beginning saves you a lot of time in this step of the writing process. The revision step is brutal sometimes for students because they didn't take the time in the beginning to set a strong foundation for their essay. That's where you want to start though. Global revision is the rhetorical situation. Make sure all of those elements are good to go. Then you can move on to level 2, which is substantive editing, right? So not to be confused with copy editing, which is level 3. So we're still kind of, the global issues, the rhetorical situation, those are really big. Substantive editing, we're getting down not quite as big, but still a pretty big chunk of what the essay consists of. Content, organization, and possibly design. I'm going to focus on content and organization. So you have a really decent topic. It's focused enough, manageable. You have a good angle. You know, you have found a way to make this topic seem interesting and you know, to your readers so that they'd want to read about it. Your purpose is clear, right? It's clear what you're trying to accomplish in the essay, but you haven't actually accomplished it. The content, right? So let's say, for instance, with your narrative essay, your purpose was to show how the birth of your first child was, you know, a wonderful thing, but also like terrifying, like, or something bad happened or almost happened or something like that. I mean, everybody has those stories. So if you've done something to make it interesting and seem different and unique, then that's awesome. But what if you didn't include the stuff you really needed to include, right? What if there were moments of this story that just seem like it's missing something, right? Parts that don't make sense, possibly. Maybe you included too much. So we're talking about the content. If you know you're going to be writing an evaluation essay, some composition instructors have their students write like a cause and effect or a compare and contrast essay. Any type of essay, you know, if you're trying to prove something to your readers, you're trying to prove that these two things, even though they might seem really different, they're actually really similar if you look at them closely. That's a purpose. That's clear, right? You're going to make it unique and interesting. You have a manageable topic, but what if the supporting sentences within your paragraphs don't actually accomplish your goal of showing how these things are actually similar? Content. You have to make sure that what you're putting in the body of the essay is helping you achieve your purpose. The organization. So this is another step of level 2 here, the substantive editing. Have you organized your main points in a way that makes sense, in a way that is effective and impactful on your reader? Is it all over the place? Do we need to, you know, are your paragraphs all wacky? Do you have paragraphs that have all different kinds of information that need to be pulled out and put in other parts of the essay? If it's difficult to figure out what is going on in any part of the essay, if it's not a content problem, then it's likely an organization problem. So that's the next thing that you want to take care of, level 2, right? If your content is good and your organization is good, then you can move on to level 3, which is copy editing, right? So now we're moving down to a smaller area of the essay to deal with. Title and headings, if appropriate. You're not really going to have to worry about that with my essays. They do need a title, but we're not doing APA format. We're not doing research papers. So you don't really have to worry about that as much. But then the next 2 items we do. So concise paragraphs, consistent paragraphs. So now we're looking at paragraph development, right? We're looking to make sure that we have well-developed paragraphs with transitions and topic sentences, with really good supporting sentences and a good point sentence or concluding sentence at the end, that they are cohesive and focused, but that they're not wordy. You know, concise paragraphs means we're not, you know, sugarcoating things. We're not beating around the bush, and we're not getting too wordy because we think it makes the writing sound more formal or more sophisticated. That you're getting to the point and explaining your point concisely. So that's what level 3, the majority of level 3 is all about. You can look at chapter 5 for more specifics, but what I really look at when I'm doing revisions is when I have taken care of the global issues, I've made sure the rhetorical situation is good, and then I've made sure my content, my organization are good. Then I start looking at paragraphs, right? The next level is the proofreading, level 4. This level is the last level of revision, but yet when you tell people to revise something, this is often the only thing they look for. They skip those first 3 levels completely, and they think revision is just all about sentence level problems, right? So this is where we're looking for grammar and spelling mistakes, right? We're looking for errors at the sentence level. Those are important to find and correct, but they should absolutely be your final stop before submitting a final draft. Why fix all of those teeny tiny errors if there's a chance that you have to completely rework that paragraph, or if you have to completely rework the whole essay? So that's why proofreading is saved for last. Work on the tiny details once you've made sure the bigger details are set and ready to go. When it comes to proofreading, one thing that you can do, if it works for you, if you have someone available to do it, is have someone else read the draft. Someone who has enough knowledge of writing, has enough knowledge of essay formats and how to write an essay, someone who will be willing to actually help you instead of just saying, oh yeah, this is great, good job. So someone who's willing to give you constructive feedback. This could be a classmate, someone who is currently taking the same class as you. Could be a classmate who's already taken the course. It could be someone from home. It could be Sandy Rice in the Learning Center. She's a great resource for this. But tell her, if whoever it is you're going, to ask to look over your draft, make sure you let them know, like, I'm not just looking for, those proofreading errors. Please let me know if you see any bigger, major problems with the essay. So having someone else, another set of eyes, is very beneficial, maybe even more than one set. Read your writing out loud to yourself. That can help you catch some problems before you even hand it off to someone else to look over. But don't get too caught up in the proofreading until it's time. One good thing about writing or typing documents in Microsoft Word is it will catch quite a few errors along the way. But just remember that it doesn't catch all of them. So don't skip this step. It's an important step, but don't start with this step. Go back through each level first and make sure that all of those areas are solid and that you're ready to move on, to the final touches. Revision is so important. Don't feel like just because you typed it out that it's set in stone. Don't be afraid to go back and really kind of carve up your paragraphs and create better, newer, different paragraphs. It might take putting the draft aside for a little bit and then coming back to it. It might take you printing out a copy and handwriting your thoughts on the hard copy and then going back in and adding those corrections in the Word document. Sometimes it's not easy to make revisions on the screen within the existing document. So those are just a couple tricks that I use, but maybe you have your own way of going about revising. just make sure that whatever your process is, that you're going through each of those 4 levels. If you have any questions about the revision process, please let me know. But more than anything, please realize that it is an important step of the writing process and that it involves a lot more than what most people assume. I hope that you take this to heart and that when you get my feedback from your essays that you go through and you really work on the elements that I've pointed out. Like I said, let someone else look at it as well. And hopefully it will help you get to a really outstanding final draft for each of the essays that you write. If you have any questions about any of it, let me know. Otherwise, you can move on to the next lesson.